Hi, I'm Linda Deir, and this is
Ray Holly.
We do this together on Thursdays right here on Facebook Live on my page. And this is where we answer questions about my flagship book, Guided, and its companion journal, My Guided Journey. Guided is available on Amazon in Kindle, paperback, and audiobook format. And My Guided Journey is available as a free download on my website. This is my latest book. And this was created for the readers of Guided and others who have bumped into my work, on how they make the connection to their own spirit guides and angels. This is how you do it. This is how I did it, and this is how you do it. Okay, so it's always best to read Guided first or listen to it, and then this really makes sense, okay? So today we're gonna be talking about part 2. There's 3 parts to My Guided Journey. Part 2, page 5. And page 5 is We Become Best Friends. This is when you're just before you start kindergarten. Somewhere in there, sometimes a little later, a little earlier, maybe 3 or 4, but getting close to 5. This is when you have the strongest connection and relationship with your spirit guides and angels. In fact, it's so natural that you don't even think about it. It feels like you're still not separate from where you came from. You're still one with that. While you're kind of mingling in this world and kind of working in this world, you've learned language, you're walking really well, you're, everything is new. Everything you do is just, it's like golden, it's magic. There's nothing bad in the world when you're at that age, 4 years old, 5 years old. There's just nothing wrong with it, okay? So, and even if there is something wrong with it, deep in your world, because you didn't separate yourself from the world you came from yet, there's still something that makes some sense, even for the kids that go through, like I did. I went through an abusive childhood. And that's actually how I met my guides, when I was 20 months old. And they physically showed up all around me at 20 months old. And then I took this photograph when they showed up again in 1994 at Christmas time. And it became the front cover of the book, of course. They came to me in a dream a couple weeks later and said, the reason they appeared is so that the world could believe and that I was going to write a book about my relationship with my spirit guides and angels since I was a little girl. And I wrote the book 20 years later. Got right on that one, didn't I, Ray?
You did. You jumped right on that.
I didn't have the rest of the pieces together, including this one right here.
Didn't have part 4
I didn't have it all there yet. In fact, I didn't know some of the most outrageous parts of my family history, okay, until I was in my 50s. So I needed that information before it even made sense to me, So
all those sinister secrets that the family was hiding.
And that's what this is all about. This is about telling your story, this journal. It's both a journey in part 2 and a journal in part 3. But you've got to take that journey first in part 2, page 1 through 18. We're on page 5 today. Before you can remember what happened, before you can put yourself back together again, okay? Because what happened along the way is you pushed your real self away. You pushed away who it is you really are for the sake of managing to get through this life and figure this out, okay? This could really just, after a while, it can blow your mind. This world, especially if you think this is all there is, okay? At 20 months old, I discovered that this was not all there was. And from then on, I had this connection with my spirit guides and angels throughout my life. And I didn't thrive on fear because I knew this wasn't all there was. But had I been somebody who thought this was all there was in this, just being in this world, I would have been petrified. So again, this is how you work through this and get yourself back again and put yourself back together again and start coming from your whole self, not somebody over here that's dragging a leg, missing the real you, all right? Okay, so Ray. And by the way, please feel free to join us. This is an opportunity for those of you who have read or listened to Guided to ask me anything you need to know. And it's also a good time for those of you who are working with the journal and have questions about where you might get stuck, or questions about how you move through something, or just anything at all. That's why I'm here, is to help you guys work with this and work through this, okay? All right. So please leave your questions and comments right there on the stream, and we're going to answer those, okay?
Good.
Yeah.
So for people who maybe haven't been with us before and really don't understand the journal, we're kind of jumping in here. What have we covered up until this point?
Yeah. Okay, so first of all, Ray and I have covered the entire part 2, page 1 through 18, in videos we've done on Facebook Live on my page that are now available for you guys to watch at your convenience on my website, lindadeir.com. For starters, lindadeir.com. On the right side, you can get this free. It says free download, My Guided Journey. So get that first. And then click on the blog up above in the navigation area. And when you get to the blog page, on the right side, it says categories. Go down to where it says My Guided Journey. One of the categories is titled My Guided Journey. And open that up and go all the way down to the bottom. And you're going to see page 1. Page 1 starts when you were just the first thing you can remember when you first came into this world. I could remember things when I was before 20 months old. So, but my situation was pretty harrowing, and I had to be more alert because of it. So maybe that's why I can remember these things so well, partly. So anyway, it takes you back to the beginning, and it starts with fear, okay? So it's where the first detachment from this side over here was fear in this world, where it was like so shocking that you forgot everything that you knew, okay? What you knew, what you felt was true, okay? Your truth center right here. And you got consumed in this world, shocked into this world from some fear, and we've all had one or two or three or more. And so it starts out with fear, moves into ask, how to ask, because once you get the fear and you feel it hit you as a little tiny baby child or whatever you were, the first thing you did in response to that was ask. Now, you didn't ask the people who made you feel fearful, but you asked somebody. Yeah, that's what you did. And you may not remember you did it, but you did. And we all did it. You just have to go back to remember what that was. Once you nail this down, now we're on page 5, but then there's the other pages with friends, and your friendship grows, and now we're on we become best friends. So this is about your friends and your first friends and your real friends are your spirit guides and angels, because they never judge you. They are always with you. They have never abandoned you. It's you coming into this life, into this world, that was so caught off guard and shocked and surprised and didn't feel like maybe you were enough. And in this world, that's how it makes you feel. That you forgot your real friends. You forgot them. You forgot you. Okay? So that's how we lead up to this, Ray, today.
That's where we are.
Yeah.
So we're about at the age right before you start school, right around kindergarten time.
Yeah.
And that's the time.
Just before you start.
Just before you start. And that's the time in your life that you have the best connection to your best friends.
Life
Right.
is great.
Life is good. You don't doubt them. You trust them. They're always there.
You don't doubt yourself.
You don't doubt yourself. Okay.
They're one and the same. You're not separate from where you came from, who you are, and who stayed behind to guide you through this life. You're not separate yet.
This is all before you're heavily socialized and get into school. Right.
That is well put.
So before school, before you realize that you realize that they are always with you, but once you start to get socialized and you get around other people, a lot of other people, other than the ones you've been around for the last 4 years since you've been born,
Your whole life.
your entire life, now it's different. Now, they're not just older people. They're not just all adults. They're all your age.
Right.
And you start to notice how you're different and how you're alike. What starts to happen there?
Well, it's peer pressure. Okay, now you have to the socialization. You have to learn how to, get along and work in groups and you just have to learn how to do this in this world. And what you realize when you hit that, the first time you hit that, and you will remember it. You will remember the details I'm about to lay down because as I say them, you go back to the beginning of this in part 2, and you start working through this. You may not remember what the event was, but you'll remember the feeling. You'll remember that feeling. And it's like, ooh, or it's like, yeah, but this always told you the truth. And you may have gotten yourself in a situation, you started kindergarten, okay, or preschool, and boy, it didn't work out too well. I mean, these kids they didn't get it. I mean, you didn't even know how to explain what it was they didn't get. You took it for granted. When you become best friends, it was so natural for you to have this relationship that was just a continuum from where you came from before you came into this life, into this body. It was just a continuation, all right? And it was so natural that when somebody else didn't recognize it, feel it, get it, know it, you felt like something maybe was wrong with you. You started, for the first time, to doubt yourself. And in doing that, in that instant, you were separating yourself from your source. Your source is who you really are, where you came from. Your source is from those who guide you, your higher self, from everybody who supports you on this journey through this life, okay? You cut yourself off because now you experienced that doubt.
I think the word we're looking for is effortless. Up until that time, this friendship that you had with your guides was effortless.
Right, that's exactly right.
It was always there.
And see, the thing about it, Ray, it was so normal to have that,
Right.
and effortless, that it's almost like you just expected it to be everywhere.
Right. So you get to school,
Right.
and you run into this group of people who are your age, a large group of people who are your age.
And nobody acknowledges this.
Right. So now you start thinking one of two things when you can't make friends with these people. What's wrong with me?
Doubt.
Or what's wrong with them?
Well, that would be where you didn't doubt yourself. In my case, I didn't think about what was wrong with them, like in kindergarten. I just didn't hang around them. I did my own thing. I was busied up with my own little projects and stuff, just like I am today. See how we don't really change? And when I got in the first grade is when I seen how, the cards were dealt by the popular kids. And they were the ones that put their groups together, their little gangs together, their cliques together. And you could really see the bullying start and all that begin. And that's when, for me, that drew a line for me. So I didn't doubt myself. I didn't doubt and think, well, am I not good enough? Am I never going to fit into these groups? Am I ever going to have friends? I never felt any of that. The reality that hit me at 20 months old, when my mom almost killed me, solidified that. That's when this connection with my guides was made so solid that I just knew. And I didn't expect anyone else to know. I never told anybody, not my parents, nobody. So when I went to school and I seen this great division and this chaos, this self-created chaos, and how people they're not connected, they're separate, and they feel like they kind of try to destroy each other by bullying each other and beating each other up and stuff. For me, I watched it, and it just kept me more. I realized that my time alone and the decisions I had made that, caused me to be an oddball. They were fine. I was fine. I didn't have any problems with that. You see, another thing, I'll just say this one other thing. Yeah, in my particular case, I'm talking about reinforcement here. When I grew up in that family where I didn't have any support, none, this connection I had to my guides became vital. It was my lifeline, all right? So I learned to keep my mouth shut before I started school. I learned how to make this connection, the great connection, solid connection, before I started school. I learned who I was from this higher learning that I received from my guides, that I was absolutely open to and learning all the time. I knew what intelligence was. I really did. So when I came to school and I observed what was going on, it was, to me, I pulled back and I realized my family is messed up, okay? And here, I'm realizing that my society, that humanity, that people are messed up. The teachers were messed up. The kids, everybody was just, this was nuts. So that's what I observed. I saw things for what they were, is what I did. Because when you have this connection to yourself from where you came from and to your guides, you see everything for what it is. You don't make stuff up.
Okay, let's talk a little more about this oddball child in kindergarten. And your guides are always with you, right?
Yeah.
Always with you, best friends, best teachers. They're always doing something or putting something in your path to help you prepare for your future. So
it's like a yellow brick road. It's connecting the dots.
Right. So the question is, what did they do when you were in kindergarten? What was the one thing that you absolutely loved to do? It was odd for a girl to do it, and you had to do it every day. So
in kindergarten, there were the building blocks. They were about like this. So for a little kid, those were pretty big, all right? And every day at school, everybody had to experience something different. Some days it was the building blocks, and other days it was the coloring in the coloring books, or the, whatever it happened to be, where everybody had their turn at playing with these things and experimenting and experiencing them. For me, I had to have those building blocks. It wasn't an option. When I discovered the building blocks, I had to have them. I was addicted to the building blocks. Now, I don't know where that came from. My dad was in the construction business, but never taught me anything. All I was ever taught is how to cook and clean and sew. I wasn't taught anything in the business, but my brothers were. But I was still real young to learn anything like that. So here's an example of something I'm sure I brought in with me from other lifetimes. And even though I was a girl in the early 1950s, in the mid-50s by that time, playing with the building blocks seemed kind of tomboy-ish, okay? And everybody, they thought I was strange, and everybody had all these opinions about me, right? As they did about each other, same thing. And I never thought about what they thought about me. I was so invested in what I was doing, in my projects, and learning, and and just drinking it up. I was like, I just felt like the luckiest person that I got to do that. So every day I'd come to school and I'd think, how am I going to get those building blocks? Because I have to have them. I know those other kids need to learn, but I have to have those building blocks, right? It was so strong. So I'd come to school with candy and money and all kinds of vices to get these
you
kids.
operated in kindergarten just like they operate in the construction business. Bribery.
Absolutely.
There you go. And
So-
payoffs.
Exactly. And what did I get? I got those building blocks every time. You know, those kids didn't care about those building blocks. I cared about those building blocks.
So why do you think your guides made you?
Well, they didn't make you do anything. Right?
I know, but
But
they
they
put
put that was put in front of me.
Yeah, and you believe you made yourself do that.
Well, no, I was drawn to do it.
Right.
That's what it is.
Like they knew it ahead of time.
Well, yeah, exactly. There's no accidents. I mean, I went to a school where they had building blocks. I mean, that's not an accident. That was laid out before I got here. We have a plan that we lay out before we get here. So this is just part of your plan. We all have it.
But 15 years after kindergarten, what were you doing?
I was a home builder and an architect and a subcontractor. I was heavy in construction industry and I was just going by this because I had no formal education at all. My family didn't raise me to learn the business. They raised my brothers to learn the business. And I wound up with the one in the business. Okay, so who would have guessed? Even my dad and my mom and dad were like, what? That doesn't make sense. Because they didn't raise me for success. They raised me for failure, you know. And so anyway, when you're guided, when you follow your guidance, when you're aware that they're right there, it's like following your urge, following what drives you, what you know, what your truth is, okay? And just going for it. It's like you don't notice anybody else around you. It's a blur. It's like driving down the freeway 100 miles an hour. They don't matter. You just go, okay? So you don't focus on what others think about you, because if you did, it would drag you down, it would slow you down, or even stop you. Yeah.
What was the criticism you got from the teachers and from the kids when you had to have those building blocks every day? It was your passion, and they tried to step on it. What would they do? I mean...
Well, they kind of didn't bother me.
Really?
No, they really didn't. The other kids didn't seem to be interested in the building blocks. You know, they were happy with the money or the candy or the bubble gum or whatever I gave them, right?
Right.
I came with my arsenal because I needed to have those building blocks.
Every day.
I had to have them. So when you are guided, here's the whole point to this. When you are guided, you feel this. It's a pull that you can't resist. It's something that it's so obvious that you just have to experience it. That's guidance. That's not greed. That's not being a bad kid or whatever that was when you were little. That's just your calling, okay? And you're just following it. That's why you came here. You came here to experience that so you could learn from that one thing, and it would take you to the next and to the next and to the next. And it's connecting the dots. That's what this does. Page 1 through 18 in part 2. It takes you back through your life, because until you know where you've been, you can't know where you're going. You've been stumbling along. You've been making mediocre decisions with real mediocre outcomes. And you know what? That's not the life you came here to live. That's not the one that the soul's urge is helping you realize and step into and live fully. That's totally different than what you've been used to, all right? But you know, and all of you know that where it's missing. You know when it's missing. You know when you're missing it. You know it. You feel it. It's so obvious. And you can't even talk to anyone about it because you can't really explain it. But when you go back through this in part 2, page 1 through 18, you're going to see it. You're going to feel it. If you don't remember the events, you're going to remember what it felt like, okay?
Okay, so let's move on from the odd little child in kindergarten. So as you become more socialized in this life and you get to the age where we are now, you're in your 40s, your 50s, or 60s, and you've maybe lost this connection and you'd like to get this effortless friendship, best friend connections back because you've never been able in decades to experience that like you did when you were 4 and 5 years old, right? Now, when you look back at that time in your life on page 5, what's more important? Are the events that happened at that time more important, or are the feelings more important?
The feelings.
Why?
Because, okay, let me describe the difference between the feelings, your truth center, and emotions. Okay? Emotions and being a victim comes from this world. What you feel and what you know, you brought with you. Okay? It's your inner guidance system that never lies to you. You know the difference. You'll know when something doesn't feel right, even if you don't act on it, or you push it away and pretend, oh no, I can't look at that. I could never face that because everything else, like a house of cards, my life would fall apart. I can't look at that. But you know what? You can't help but look at that. You've got to, that's what it takes. You've got to be able to look at what is, face reality, so that you can trust yourself. You've been fooling yourself. You've been deceiving yourself by thinking this is all there is. Only because you forgot this. It's not gone. You just pushed it away, okay? Now it's time to bring it back. And this is your real power. And integrate it with this world, okay? And move with that. And what you'll find yourself doing once you work through part 2 and you discover what these things are, everybody's different, is you'll discover that you're moving slower. You're not the first one to come out with an opinion. You'll learn to just not have an opinion, because you know who has that opinion? Over here, this person. The person that you've only been. Not the person you came in as. The person you came in as is way wiser than this. So what you have to do, once you recognize this and you start encouraging this to come back, you have to give this a breather so this can come back in. Because this over here is loud and it's demanding and it's obnoxious. This over here is subtle, it's quiet, it's calm, okay? It's the opposite of this. So if you just cool this down a little bit, just give it a break, put it on vacation. Don't be the first to come out with an opinion on something. Breathe and let yourself not jump to conclusions like you used to do, and let this have a chance to interface before this overwhelms you. That's what you learn when you work through this, okay?
Okay, so when you're trying to make friends, when you're attempting to make friends in this world, as you grow older, do you worry about what people will think and say, and is that what really keeps you from making best friends?
Okay, that's 2 big questions there.
I know.
Making best friends in this world?
Right.
Good luck. And what I'm talking about is I have a basis of comparison. I really do. I know what a best friend is. I know what it feels like and what it is like to live in both worlds, okay? But when you're over here isolated and alone, without the real you, without your guides, and you're in this world, you feel alone over here. It's gotta, I gotta tell you, you guys, I don't even know how it feels. I just have an idea of what it feels like because of all the people I've worked with that have bought guided and wanted more answers, okay, which really is what generated this. All right, so you guys could get your answers. But I don't know how you made it this far. I don't know how I can't believe it, okay? Because once you have this connection to your guides, your life just rolls out. It is a red carpet ride. And I mean, it's not like things don't happen where you have to, muscle up to the bar and you've got to face the issue or what needs to be done right now. But the way you respond to it is completely different. You don't let something threaten you anymore. You don't let fear run your life. Fear is not an option. Fear is when you forgot who you are. That's the only time fear can exist. And that's when you're in this world and you think this is all there is. Are you fearful? Oh man, I would be. I would be. Yeah.
Along the way, from 5 years old to however old you are now, it seems like you forgot somewhere along the way how to trust.
You forgot yourself.
Well, you forgot how to trust yourself.
Well, that's where the problem starts, right?
Right, and then you can't trust your assessment of others because you've been burned so many times by others.
Right, because you took it personally. See, the only way that you could be burned and feel that threat and that hurt is when you took it personally. Had you kept your connection to your guides, to yourself, and had you been part of this, you would have seen it for what it was. You would have seen it just like it was. And nobody could have made you feel the doubt, okay? Or make you feel like you're not good enough or anything, or make you feel fearful. You would see right through the fear. They're fearful. They're doing that because that's what they've subscribed to. But that's not real at all. That's a great big earthly illusion is what that is.
So when you were best friends with your spirit guide best friends, right? You really never cared about what other people thought or said.
Here, let me say this one thing. Yeah, and I'm gonna kind of answer it with this, Ray. What happens when you make this connection? I'm going to speak from my experience, but I'm going to talk to you. What happens is once you make this connection, the reason I did this is because you've really got to go back to where you got knocked off your path early on, but didn't realize it, okay? Once you make this connection and you know it's the real deal, you're writing in your journal every day. You're diligent. And in part 3, you're writing down your dreams. You're writing down the guidance that came through. You're not letting it slip away because it's real subtle. And it will slip away if you don't write it down. And in time, you'll get better at remembering it. You won't need to write it down sometime in the future. But it's just really good discipline to do it because now you've got a record of what's going on with you on these dots on your yellow brick road where you're going and being guided so you don't miss your life. But as you're working through this, let me get my train of thought here. What happened for me when I was a kid, the connection with my guides from that experience when my mom almost killed me, 20 months old, and that connection was made, and they were all around me, and I saw what they saw when they looked at me, and there was a whole data dump that happened inside of me, 20 months old, okay? I understood things that were so advanced in an instant, okay? So when that happened, I learned who I was. If I was to sum it all up, I understood who I was before I got here. I understood why I was here. I remembered them. It was a whole bunch of stuff in an instant that I connected with. From then on, I wasn't always going, where's my guides? Where's my guides? At all. I knew who I was. I walked through this life and through all the obstacles and all the nasty stuff that was going on in my childhood. And it was my best kept secret. I was sure of myself. I never doubted myself. As I traveled through all this and I didn't have friends and my family was working against me And I'm especially my mom. Oh my God, she would never let up. I just bided my time. And I did not let them take me down. I did not. It got old. It really wore me down. But I didn't let them have me. I didn't let them take my soul, you know? That's what happens when you just get so scared that you think this is all there is in this world and you're just trying to hang on right here and you push yourself away and your guides and everything that goes with that, all right? You lose yourself. That's why you have to go back and do this. You've got to go back and recover and restore what's been missing for your life, all right? And when you do that, once you make that connection and you're solid, what you're going to have is you're going to have you back, okay? And when you have you back, everything else comes back. The connection to your guides is just right there whenever you need it. Whatever they're telling you and helping you understand and guiding you to go this way, nudging you. It's always you have to take those steps, but they're guiding you. You just connect with it and flow. You're just on one big continuous ride. It's great, okay? So it's you that you wind up trusting, and everything else follows that.
I think for the people who have read Guided, there's a lot of pictures of you in there showing that you were just like that. You were holding your breath all the time. I was looking over your shoulder.
Yeah, I was watching my back, but you know, it's what I got to say that all those techniques and all that staying power and all that looking at things for what they really were, instead of letting those people take me down, I saw right through what they were doing and the reason they did it. And by the way, it wasn't very impressive, you guys. It never is. Anybody who attacks you like that, your work, your family, the kids, the society, whatever, driving down the road, and people take a harsh view of the world and they're just attacking everyone in their path. And we're seeing a lot more of that. That's not you. You should never take that personally, because the minute you do, now you engage with that, okay? And that really pulls you down. So it's not an option. It's not an option. Not once you get to know who you are and remember it, okay? You will never let that go again, ever.
So while you're trying to make friends in this world, okay, it seems that the main obstacle is, I'm going to say this, the thing that gets in the way of you reconnecting and also reconnecting back with your guides is, what are people going to think? Or what are people going to say? I mean, isn't that how you choose your friends? You know, that you look for people who are like you. You look for people who think like you, who like to do the same things as you. And if they fall outside those that list, well, then they can't be a best friend. So isn't it, because you don't want to be friends with people who don't agree with you or who talk behind your back or...
But they do.
Well, they do. Of course they do. You're best friends with the ones...
So what's happening here is Ray's talking about the best friend, okay?
You're best friends with the ones who do that the least.
You dream about having a best friend.
Mm-hmm.
You may not have a best friend, okay? You may have thought you had a best friend and they were your friend for like 3 years, and then all of a sudden they took a 180-degree turn. How could a best friend do that? That's not a best friend. That is not what they are. I'll tell you, I know what a best friend is. This is the best friend you'll ever have. That's why it says, guided, her spirit guide angels were her best friends and life coaches. These are the real McCoy right here. People in this world are just like you. They came in here to learn their lesson. They've got karma they brought with them, and karma they created while they're here, you know. And so they're here to solve the puzzle, you know, to learn these lessons. And the guides, your guides, they didn't come here. They don't have any karmic debt to pay. So they're absolutely clean. They've got nothing, there's no agenda for them. Where the people who came here to live in this life, in the same world that you're living in the same time frame, they all have an agenda. All of them. Because they're like puppies at the puppy dish. They all need some too, all right? And you're one of those puppies. So you're all kind of, vying for the same thing. You're reaching for the same thing. You've been taught to want the same things, a beautiful home, great kids, cars, a great job, a loving relationship, You guys, unless you know who you are, you got to go back and do the work. Unless you know who that is, that's there, this isn't going to work out. And the people that you picked, the husband or the wife, the kids that you have, it's all just one big drama, okay? So you really, until you know who you are and you make the connection, first, you have to make that connection. Is everything else available to you in this world and from where you came from? You got to make this connection with yourself. When you do it, your guides are with you every step of the way. They're like this because now they can reach you, because now you're paying attention. You're doing what matters, what's going to put your life back together again. It's like Humpty Dumpty. Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Humpty Dumpty took a big fall into this world, okay? And then how does that go?
That's been a long time since I heard that one, but all of the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again.
Humpty Dumpty back together again. So what does that mean? That rhyme? It means that nobody out there in this world can put you back together again. You have to do it. That's your job. That's how this works. That's why this was created. All right?
I hope this isn't too far off topic, but what do you think triggers people to worry about what other people think or say about them?
Because you feel alone. In this world, when this is all you have, and you've got no recollection of where you came from, who you are, and all the help that's available to you on command, when you think this is all there is in this world, you feel really lonely. And that's scary. So everything depends on your connections in this world. Now that's scary, Ray.
It's like a big insecurity.
It would be. If this is all you thought there was, the physical world that you're in, that is a fatal error, is what that is. And no wonder you're scared. I mean, seriously, I can't even describe it. I'll tell you what does describe it is my book Guided. This describes it. What it's like to recognize that this is not all there is, and how your life will change once you know it, and how I lived it, and how I was able to remember every piece of it and explain it to you guys so you could grasp it, okay?
Okay, so let's clear something else up, this loneliness thing. I think you did a post on this recently, maybe it was even today. But loneliness, so there's more and more people now who are single and alone than ever before. Because it's an aging population and they're alone. Maybe their mate died, they broke up, they don't think they can find another one, whatever the excuse is, that they're not with someone else. That doesn't matter. But loneliness has really nothing to do about being alone. It has everything to do with thinking people don't care about you.
That's right, Ray. You feel like nobody understands and nobody cares. That's loneliness. That's really feeling a deep loneliness.
Right.
Like that's a bad place to be. And that's not true. See, that's the whole point to this. No matter what this world does, when you know yourself, when you take that journey in part 2 of my guided journey, and you work back through these moments in your life, you don't, like Ray said earlier in the beginning of this, you don't have to remember the event that happened, but you'll remember the feeling. You'll remember how it felt. And you'll go, oh, I remember how that felt when I used to do this and play in my sandbox, or I went and rode my bike, and how it felt. Why did it feel so good? Well, you'd only notice if something felt that good if you had something to compare it to. And it's the compare it to part that you need to identify. Because you see, that's what, getting on the bike and going somewhere, great, you got away from it for a while. But what was it that you were running away from? See? And it starts a whole cascade, a whole domino effect of things that we run away from. And we find ourselves living a whole life of running. We're always running away from something. We need another vacation to get away from the job that we don't like. We need another vacation. We need a newer car to make us feel good. We need a bigger house. Maybe that will make everyone happy. And you see, that's always the wrong approach. It builds on itself. And you get to the point where you have all this stuff and you've just complicated your life more. And now you're wanting answers. You're wanting answers. That's when people get this book. They go, okay, wait, what's going on with my life? Where did I miss it? Okay, they get this book and then they realize what they've missed, and this comes next. Now they're taking their own journey and journaling, okay? And you guys, your life will never be the same. Once you start doing this, once you start walking through this,
when you get to be our age, 40s, 50s, 60s, and you've accumulated all this stuff that you thought would make you happy.
You did all the stuff they told you would make you happy in this world.
Right. You got a good college education, you got a good job so you could make more money, so you could pay off your college loan, and you could buy all this stuff, that they put you in debt for forever. Now, you come to a certain point, now the kids are gone. And, now we don't need this big house.
Right.
And now we don't need 4 cars. And we don't need a vacation home. Maybe we could just, take a cruise once in a while. But now you realize that all the stuff you've accumulated really didn't make you happy at all. It just served a function.
You went
filling up the motions.
You went through the motions.
You went through the motions.
Right, Ray.
Like everybody else did. Like you saw everybody else
do. You did it the way you were told to do it.
Right. You were programmed to do it by the media, by the television.
That's exactly right.
The television. They told you a vision.
And you believed it.
Right. Okay.
Instead of believing in yourself.
Another thing about this looking back and looking at the event and looking at the feelings is that when people look back on things that happened in their life, they tend to remember them as being a lot better than they actually were.
So you know what that is? That's when you started making stuff up.
Yep. Instead of looking at how you felt, did you really feel that great about how you explained it, how you think you remembered it?
You were trying to fit in.
Right. And it really wasn't as great as you remembered.
No, it never is.
And the more you retell those stories over and over and over again, the more you really start to convince yourself it was great.
You're lying to yourself. No one has to lie to you. You do a better job doing it to yourself.
Yeah.
When you don't know who yourself is.
Right. Well.
That's how it... Do we have anybody that
No,
has
nobody asked a question. Everybody's kind of quiet tonight.
You guys.
But we're glad you were all here. Let's talk about one thing about if people are new to you. They're just discovering you and your messages. We have a page. You have a page on your website where to start.
Yeah. When you go to lindadeir.com, that's DEIR, lindadeir.com. That'll take you to the home page. You go, and that's where, on the right side, you're going to find this journal where you can download it for free. Right underneath this, you're also going to see the other 3 books that I've written. This is the flagship book, Guided. And Ray, do you want to show them the other 2 little books?
I certainly do.
And
I love these little books.
Everyone loves those little books.
So when Linda wrote Guided, people finished it and they said, well, wow, I liked all the lessons and tips and awarenesses that I learned from the guides in the book, but I'd like more. So she wrote 2, and you can see how these are different.
Can you get that right?
This is a big, thick 400-page book. These are little, about 100-page books.
Yeah,
and
this is a 9.5-hour audio book, and these are 1 hour
about an
audio
hour,
books.
right.
Right.
So the first one, the second book she wrote is called How to Live a Guided Life, and it's called First Steps, Book 1. And this is all channeled information from Linda's guides, 2 or 3 paragraphs on different lessons, and then a paragraph from Linda interpreting how it works in your life.
Right.
And First Steps, and then the second one's called How to Live a Guided Life, Meeting the Real You. That could be scary.
Well, the way that people are when they don't know who they are,
Yeah.
that's very frightening, Ray.
Yeah.
But once they know who they are and they start stepping into it, your dreams will sharpen up. Your intuition will become heightened because you're writing down what those insights are and those dreams are, because you're paying attention, okay? Yeah.
Okay, so First Steps,
Yeah,
red, Meeting the Real You, the blue one.
that's right.
And if you notice how small these are, these will fit right in your stocking. They make great gifts.
And they're good. You know, these books are also good for your kids.
Yeah.
This is really interesting. When I've had kids tell me that they love these books, they get it because it's a short read, short attention span, gives them enough just to connect with. People have said to me, these books, they've said they're so easy to read and they're so simple to follow that they're hard. And the more that you feel that hit you, the more you pushed yourself away. Okay, when you start to make this connection and it becomes palatable, where now you get it, that's why your kids are likely to read these and go, oh, I totally get it. They haven't pushed themselves away as much as you have as an adult, all right? So they get a lot out of these. So run it by your kids. Let your kids read it to you and see what happens when you guys discuss what they just read and what you connect with when you hear how brilliant your children are in their interpretation and how they digest it, all right? It'll surprise you. It will get you more, the inclination for you to follow through on taking the journey and then doing the journaling in part 3, chapter 3, will kick in. You'll have an experience right there from your own kids. And we have kids, so we can wake back up to who we are. We can revitalize that spark in ourselves that we missed. Where did it go? Okay, the kids bring it back. That's how they can help you with this. Your kids can help you, okay? Let them.
Let them.
Yeah.
Okay, next week will be December the 21st. There's something special about that day.
Thursday.
Thursday, the 21st of December.
We're going to be right back here, same place, same time. So please join us. And you guys, don't be shy. Bring your questions. You can write out a question beforehand. You can even email them to me,
Right.
Linda, at lindadeir.com. And I'll have them so that when we do our group, our Facebook Live next Thursday, we'll answer those questions, okay? So if you want us to use a name that isn't your name, just let us know. And that way we can answer your question and help you along, all right?
And I will post a link after we are off tonight to that page where they start with your lessons and your teachings and your start here, do this first, do this next.
Okay.
I'll post that link.
Okay, what Ray's talking about is the homepage. I didn't really finish answering your question on that. But when you get to the homepage, I kind of got off on, you can get this on the homepage, right? And all the books on the homepage. You'll see them scrolling on the right side. Underneath the video, there's a video right there. It's like a 50 seconds video or something like that that describes my spirit guide angel and how it first came through and how they first came to me and how powerful it was. Right underneath that, it talks about how to start, how to use the website, where to get started. You'll see a little photograph with a bear looking through a window, all right? That would be you. Looking through that window, peeking in, okay? And underneath that, it gives you the step-by-step, where to start and sequentially, how to move through the website with its primary points on how to get you moving through all this and what to do first and so forth, yeah.
That's good. Okay. So, we'll be back 1 week.
1 week from today. And what is that day, Rick? So, cuddle up and, and stay warm and that type of thing. It's fun. All of this, we move through the fall, and the fall is letting things go. And the winter is about hibernating and letting what happened over the last year really digest it and let it sink in and let yourself, revisit it in a deeper way and figure out what happened there and where you would do something differently or add to it or whatever, so that in the spring you plant the seeds, the ideas that came to you in the winter, that you are off and running in the spring and summer. Everything's in full bloom. Your project, whatever you wanted to do, whatever you had in mind, whatever came from the winter, then into the spring and the summer, you're ready to go. You're off and running. So, where does this come in to play? Reading books is a great thing to do in the wintertime because it lets you go back inside and investigate what's laying on the table, okay, for you in your life. And do the inner work that you need to do to bring your life back to its full force, okay? So you're living the life you intended before you got here. And you guys, when you do that, when you do the work, all right, and you're living your life fully, and you made this connection, you brought yourself back, your guides are ever more present and excited about helping you walk through this and guide you and get you on your way, because they know the work it takes to live a lifetime. And it wasn't easy. It has not been easy for anybody. And you didn't come here to waste it, And all you have to do is remember some of the things that threw you off your course. You'll do it right here. You only have to do it once, and then you've got it documented. And you know what? Once you write it in here, it's the truth. It's not something you made up. It's not something that you wrote in here out of being a victim or from emotional energy. It came from being observant, not taking it personally. It came from the real you that knows when it first came here, and it comes from the truth, okay? That's the opposite of this world. You're just beginning to know who that is.
And once you can feel that, you can what?
You can heal that.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what you're going to do. The healing, you don't have to go out and heal something. Once you feel it and document it, the healing has a life of its own. It can't help but heal itself.
Right.
All right? Because you get yourself back. And you start to see this world for what it is. You start to see everything in it for what it is. All right?
All right.
Okay, you guys.
Hope to see everybody next week.
And we'll be here, same place, same time.
Right.
On Thursday.
All right. Good night.
Good night.